on, everyone? It's Mike back again, and yeah, look, there's not loads of news, and that's because we're not being linked with players, we're being linked with managers. But there's one article that I found interesting about Everton's future and the club. It was regarding Ramon Planes. I think that's how you pronounce his name. He's a former Barcelona sporting director. This is a guy, 54 years old. He's got a good reputation. I think he was the director of football before Barcelona got quite messy. I think the interesting thing with Ramon Planes is the fact that they were saying that he may be able to conjure some form of relationship with Benitez. Now, obviously, that can't happen now. Benitez has left the club. Everton are in complete limbo. So not only do we appear to be recruiting for a director of football, but we also do appear to be recruiting for a manager. And the manager options, let's think about them. We've been linked with Graham Potter. We've been linked with Wayne Rooney, Frank Lampard, Mourinho, Lucien Favre, Kovac, Martinez, Duncan Ferguson on a permanent basis. And to be honest, there is a few other managers that I just can't think of off the top of my head. But as you can see, we've been linked with a lot of players, a lot of managers, and we haven't been linked with players. And it sort of took away from January, that buzz. Because I often have a buzz in January that maybe we're going to get that cheeky late move. I certainly used to remember it when we bought in, you know, Marouane Fellaini at like 1 minute to 11, and I remember just being completely gassed up at how excited I was. And, you know, I remember deadline day and we bought in, under Martinez, we bought in Lukaku on loan, James McCarthy from Wigan for 12 million and Gareth Barry for 2 million or something like that for Man City. You know, these were appointments that really excited me and they were great. I'm now looking at January and thinking, I sort of just want it to be over, and I want it to be over because I can't see how we're going to do any other business. And I know people are saying, well, it hasn't stopped Mashiri buying players. You know, look at El Ghazi, he's in on loan. He was Mashiri's man. It's, you know, he will just go and be approached by an agent and then sign him just to say it up. But it would surprise me if it happens again this window. And bearing in mind we're so short and we need a number 10, we probably need another centre midfielder. You could argue we need a centre-back as well because, you know, Mason Holgate and Michael Keane are nowhere near good enough at the level. It's disappointing that all of our attention is on managers and director of footballs. But when you look at what Planes did at Barcelona, we brought in some really good players on yeah, look, I mean, they were decent fees. But he built an infrastructure at Barcelona which allowed young players to come in, and he did a decent job. He is not credited with all of the issues that Barcelona have had in recent years regarding financial fair play and the money issues that they had and struggling to sign players. He's not part of that. So that's a positive. He's also, you know, been director of football at one of the biggest clubs in the world. This is a guy that knows what success looks like. He knows what brand reputation means, and maybe he knows what it takes for Everton to take that step up. And actually it's probably like 3 or 4 steps up now, but he knows that process. So I'm not against him coming in. It's just, who does he fit with a manager? Because that's the other issue. You're going to have to bring someone in who can gel instantly with a manager. And the managers that we've been linked with, for example, Potter, he's got a great relationship with his current board, his current director of football at Brighton. You almost have to go and get Potter and the director of football, and that's going to be expensive. You know, Everton are in that sort of position where we haven't got a choice but to get a winning team. And by winning team, I mean a director of football and a manager that can work together straight away. Because we need that. We need someone to literally hit the ground running. And if we're not going to go and do that, then we need to bring in a manager that is going to be given essentially the rope. He's going to be given that rope. He's going to be able to develop his strategy in his team. And that's my concern with literally all of the names mentioned, all of the people that, you know, sort of come across is, you know, would they be given time? Would Frank Lampard be given any more than 12 months, 18 months if the going gets tough? Probably not. Would Rooney? Probably not. Because there's enough Everton fans out there that have issues with appointing managers. And look, everyone's entitled to their opinion and everyone's entitled to say who they want and who they don't want. Absolutely, of course. I mean, I'm actually all for. I've got no issues with Lampard or Rooney, but there will be some people that don't. And eventually, just like we saw with Rafa, there was almost three camps. There was people who adamantly didn't want him. There was camps that didn't want him but were happy to accept him. And there was camps that was okay with it, brought him in, started really well, good job, no issues. So there was almost this divide straight away. And this is what Everton need to work on to not have going forward. As a director of football, their job is going to be to put this plan in place and hopefully for Mashiri and Kenwright to not touch it, not get involved too much. You know, only deal with board requests just like you get on Football Manager. Oh, I want a better training facility. Approve or deny. That's what they should be doing. They shouldn't be dictating the plan, football strategy. That's not their job. But that's what's been happening, and that's what we saw with Marcel Brands, and that was why he made his comments towards the fans saying the players aren't the only mess at this club. He was taking a direct pop at the board, and he was part of that board. So that's one area. And then when you look at the managers, what is the plan? So let's talk about how our managers who were linked to it played. Frank Lampard, for example, plays high intensity of aggressive football, but was definitely suspect at the back. You know, Chelsea conceded a fair few goals for where Chelsea were. They started really well, but they ended really poorly under Frank, and as a result, Frank was sacked. Rooney, they play really good football, Derby, but it's combative, it's aggressive, it has to be because of where they are in the league, and he's done a great job with that. So if you want someone who's going to get every player playing for the shirt, showing dedication and fight, Rooney fits that bill. But he doesn't have the experience in the Premier League. You know, you've got Mikael Sylvester today saying he shouldn't be considered for the job, or i.e. he shouldn't take the job if he's, you know, because he feels that they need more time to adjust and get used to it. Fair enough. You know, you've got managers who will distance themselves because fundamentally coming into Everton as it looks right now, you've got financial fair play issues, you've got several issues. You've got several issues, board level, players level, you've got loads of issues. So it's like managing a football club with high expectations, with two hands behind your back, jumping into an ocean. How well can you tread water with no hands? And eventually, you sink or swim. And that is the issue here. Who is going to be prepared to take this job on? And I would question the calibre of manager that will come in. You know, can Everton get a Kovac? Would he come in? Lucien Favre, let's talk about him. You know, he's won half of his games as a manager. Brilliant. 64 years old, or 61 years old, something like that. Is he going to be playing this dinosaur brand football that we all talk about and we all were convinced that Ancelotti and Benitez was playing? What makes him different to Mourinho? Is he going to play dinosaur football? So then you've got the opposite. You've got a Frank Lampard. Are we going to play quick, aggressive football and be left open at the back? There has to be a happy medium. And the problem is, I don't know who that happy medium is. And I also don't know who's going to be recruiting because there isn't a director of football. And that is the issue. That's what concerns me and that's what gets me. And this is why I think Everton's January is a write-off. However, let's talk about the positive side of it. We've got Duncan Ferguson in. For however many games he is in, those players will be dedicated and have fight on that pitch. Very much like Lampard would do with these players, I'm convinced, and Rooney. But what Duncan also does is he knows the players. He knows the infrastructure of the club. And I'm not saying jobs for Boyz is great, and I'm not saying that, you know, Tim Cahill should come back in a senior executive role. I'm not saying that Graham Sharp should have been added to the board. My opinions are very different on all of those things, but I almost contradict myself with what I think about Ferguson, is that right now, I know he's not got experience, i.e. same as Rooney. He hasn't managed more than 4 games in the Premier League, or 3 and 1 FA Cup tie. But right now, we need someone who we can all clearly identify with. And I think out of all of the names mentioned, Ferguson's the man. And then that comes to that senior executive role, Tim Cahill. Now, if they're talking about senior executive role and adding someone like Tim Cahill as a sort of director of football, this is what he has been planning to do. Tim Cahill has worked with the Aspire Academy. He worked really hard with the deal for James Rodriguez and multiple players that have gone to Saudi Arabia and the Middle East. He's been involved in those. He knows how to conduct transfers, and he also has a name that you genuinely can say that Tim Cahill is highly regarded in world football. Like, everyone knows Tim Cahill. I'm not saying he was the best footballer in the world, and I'm not saying, he was absolutely exceptional at all levels. But Tim Cahill managed to create himself as a brand. And I would say that any soccer fan in America would know Tim Cahill. I would say that any fan in the Middle East would know or heard of Tim Cahill in some way. He's not on the same level as a global icon, but he's respected in football. So if you're conducting your business with a Tim Cahill, I don't think that's a bad thing. It's what he knows other than just conducting deals and learning the operational side of football. Does he understand how to manage the recruitment element of, loaning out our younger players? Does he know what it's like in the Premier League? Well, the answer's no. So again, we're talking about inexperienced players coming into really key roles at Everton Football Club. And while we are where we are, that's probably all we can expect. Unless they go and push the boat out for a Kovac, for a Favre, who's going to request a lot of money, who will want to make their own transfers. Everton financial fair play is a huge, huge issue. I don't think those managers take that. I don't think they sign up to it because their reputation's on the line. So you really are looking at someone who can come in, do the job, shoestring budget, get used to it, deal with it, and get on with it. I think the best man for it is Duncan Ferguson, because he won't demand too much from the board. And I said yesterday on my video, I said somebody needs to come into Everton Football Club that essentially will take no shit from Mashiri, Ken Wright. And I absolutely agree with that statement in the summer. I think right now in January, we need a man who can literally get in there, work with the players we've got, get us through this season and start again in the summer. And that is why, for me, Duncan should just get the 6-month job. There's no point pissing around, interviewing and all that shit. Just give him the job for 6 months and we'll reassess where we are. That, in my opinion, ticks every single box, because Duncan then won't go to the board and say, I want to sign him. Because one, it helps us, we don't spend money. Two, the board probably don't want to spend money because of financial fair play. And three, he knows his boundaries. He knows his boundaries. He knows the players that he's got to work with, and he knows what Everton needs to do with this group of players, which is, i.e., move up the Premier League. If you bring in a manager and a director of football right now, I think it's a huge, huge gamble. And for me, it's not really worth taking. Guys, look, I'm leaving it there. Have a good one. Keep smiling. Up the toffees. And if you're going to ask me in the summer, who do I want the manager to be? Well, based on the current options available now, it's probably Kovac. Guys, I'll see you soon. Peace.